I feel like the Lord said, "Hey, Jason, you know what? This is where you like to operate, and then however those skills can transcend into other areas. That's what I want to do."
So can I ask a kind of a man on the street kind of question on this? Because as I listen to you guys, you know, this idea of the kind of the subjugation of the ego and taking myself out of it. For most of us, that's rather, I don't know what the right word is, exalted state, seems to be a little bit beyond me. So my question is this: is that kind of egoless action, is that a requirement for leaving a legacy, or is it just the way you experienced it? I mean, how would you respond to that? Or anybody else for that matter. If any questions, comments, concerns, or emotional outbursts are welcome from
Well, I don't think it's ego-less. I think it's, I mean,
maybe less ego.
Maybe less ego. Less ego.
Well, you know,
I mean, I'm competitive. I want to compete. I want to be the biggest and the best. But that's not at the top of the list.
Yeah.
It's like in service, you know, to something else.
So that it kind of struck me when you were talking, Jason, about this young man who came up to you and said, "Thank you," and it brought you to tears. Well, that's, in a sense, that's ego gratification, right? But it's not ego for the sake of itself. It's ego, it's still gratifying, but for the sake of something beyond yourself, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying that and I think everyone would agree. I mean, you know, we should be proud of our efforts, you know? I think that, at least when it comes to ego, I mean, I'm going to tell you something. I'm a competitive Joe. I like to win. And in business, I mean, there is those competitive forces, and let's not get wrong with that. But I think the ego is like when it begins to override, you know, the true mission and the purpose to it. And for me, it was just a shattering of, Jason, you need to grow up, boom, because this is just not about you. And it took a little boy to do that.
Please.
I think what's important about what all of you are echoing, and first I want to acknowledge all the charitable work that you've done. I have founded a nonprofit myself called Compassionate Communications. And so I understand the challenges, but I think what's important, no matter what the contribution is, we're all leaving a legacy. It's not a matter of that I formed a 501c3 or I did this or I did that, because it's the I, not the we, that really is the removal of the ego. It's the mind beyond death part, which I'm reading a Buddhist book right now, which is quite interesting. That, you know, when you think a legacy, and especially somebody coming from the insurance side, you're talking about somebody saying, well, I'm going to die. But the spiritual side of this is, and that's why all of you are in this, I know that's why I'm in it from a spiritual standpoint, is it really is this aspect of that we are all connected and we all are leaving a legacy, in whatever that might be, in whatever small way it might be, or large way that we're here. And I acknowledge the efforts of all of you, a $55 million nonprofit that's growing as fast as it can, all the way down to the person who's serving people peanut butter and jelly sandwiches underneath the on-ramp, who has not really, you know, created a big legacy, but in their own way, they are giving a kind word to somebody or providing a hand to somebody in need, and it's really more about that. So acknowledging each of you for doing what you're doing, because you are providing that hand to somebody in need. And it's about that time in need where we connect as true human beings with compassion that really makes the difference. That's what drives all of us to do what we do. I don't think it's a matter of, you know, did I get $55 million nonprofit? It's a matter that I connected with people at a true human level and I made a difference, however small that difference might have been, to do that. So my comment the question would be to you guys, at what point, because sometimes when they get big, Randy, at 55 million, you start to lose sight of making those connections on a daily basis. How do you guys connect daily, down at a real grassroots level, to remind yourself that what you're, and I've dealt with charities as large as Susan G. Komen all the way down to small ones, that what you do really makes a difference, and that you keep the whole money thing in some kind of perspective, because we know we got to have the money to find the research, to find the cure, right? That's part of what's going on in the medical side. So how do you guys get at that grassroots
So
level?
Tom, how do you stay connected?
Yeah, it's always, it's a great question, and it's correct. It's one kid at a time is actually our tagline. You know, of changing lives one kid at a time. It always has to be remembered that everything we do, no matter how broad the scale, is always about that one single kid, that one single person that life is being transformed. And it doesn't matter how many numbers, it is always that one person. Maybe replicated 100,000 times, maybe replicated 1,000,000 times, but it's always about each individual person. And you're reminded that when we are an organization of all the stories that come in and all the relationships that we create, all the events that we attend. And it's always, you see it in the eyes and the heart and the soul when you see it in the transformation that happens right before you, and you realize no matter where that's happening in the world, that it's always about that one single person.
How do you guys get those stories out? Because I know part of the challenge for people in philanthropic work is to be able to get it out through ways where it's positively received by us.
Now, I'm curious to hear your perspective on that, Wayne, because you're not actually in a nonprofit, you're working with nonprofits,
Well, one of the key things is, you know, from a business point of view, I have to be accountable to my 700 plus employees here. And at the end of the day, they love that I do this, but what's in it for them, right? So I figured it out that at some point, there's got to be some ROI, no matter how we look at it, because otherwise I can't spend my time doing it. So as much as I like to do that, I got to somehow have the formula to talk to the bean counter, which is my little brother. So if he doesn't see ROI in it, I don't have the time, because my resource should be spent building the brand, not the nonprofit.
kind of Tigger and Eeyore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So luckily for me, I'm smart enough because I do the marketing for our company. Two of my buddies here, Eric and Marcus, they find ways to get the word out. So we team up. The bottom line is you got to be able to document what you do, right? If that's what you're talking about. Because in today's environment, if I do something this afternoon, it could be on the internet tonight. Or in some cases, it could be immediately. So the selfish part, it's not that I want it, but I have to tell my manager why I took 20 burritos out of his store, because he's going to get dinged for that. His food cost just went up. So I got to justify it somewhat. So having media partners has been like the key factor that allows me to do what I do. And it's like, it's very, very hard, but because I look at it as selfish, because I really don't care about it. But if I don't tell the world that I'm doing that, I can't justify to the business partners that I have, because I'm only 1/4 owner of my company. So the other 3 guys go, great that you spend your weekend, your time, but if you touch our resources, we want to know why.
So you are measuring the immaterial and the
They want to know.
unmanaged. Yeah.
They want to know. I don't care. I mean,
Even though
because-
today they talked on the panel up there about that material side of things, and not where we're seeing a shift of non-measurement of that, you
Yeah.
still are measuring it.
You have to.
Question from the back, go ahead.
A question, I think many of us, many people would like to do this full-time. In a
Yes.
sense, you have this current path where really you're making money for yourself and your family, and then there's this alternative path where you'd like to sort of transcend your ego and think of the world as your family. I think the big difficulty is making the transition from here to there, and especially if that's full-time. You can do work on the side. So for those of you who are full-time into nonprofits or full-time into looking at the world as your family, how did that transition go? And, how did that happen?
So I have another wife story.
Second wife. Wife number 2, I still